Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to Rune, a solo tabletop RPG game that brings the Souls-like genre to your table. Before we go any further, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Would really appreciate that. Ring the bell to get notifications of my videos, and please, please, please give me some comments. Let me know what you think, whether you've played this before. Now, Souls-like games are extremely popular within the video game industry, and a lot of players spend many hours playing those games. I personally am not allowed to play Souls-like games for health and safety reasons. My health and the safety of everybody around me, because they tend to make me very angry and I tend to start throwing things. Controllers, cups of coffee, dice, shoes, books. But they are an amazing form of game. The analyzing of your enemy, trying to defeat them. It's extremely difficult enemies, boss fights, strategy, trying to work out how the enemies fight so that you can actually beat the bloody things. And of course, dying, and more dying, you know? That's the Souls-like experience. And in Rune from gilarpgs, Spencer Campbell has come up with an RPG, tabletop RPG, that really feels like you're playing a Souls-like game, but maybe without so much anger. Now, you can get the hard copy of the game from the gilarpgs website, or you can get the PDF, which is what I got, from itch.io. Now, the PDF comes with 3 files. It has one Realm Atlas, which is in single page format, but you also get 2 versions of the main rulebook, single page format, but also spreads, which is how I've done it. For the Realm Atlas, I also reformatted it into a spread format, just for me to save money on ink and paper and stuff, because I'm poor. Right, let's get into this game. Why is it so good, and why do I recommend you guys getting it? Right, what is Rune? Well, it is a game where you play a character called the Engraved. A character who carves runes onto his or her body to empower them with the power of these runes. You basically will wander the world. Now, the world is called Obron. It is a world that has been devastated by otherworldly powers, and the lands are now isolated masses within an ocean of mist. It sounds a little bit like the Ravenloft world, where you have all the different territories sort of separated by each other, and the mists or the areas or the oceans between the different lands can only be traveled by people with runes. They are the gifted. So you have basically a world full of islands. And each of these places, each of these lands, what we call realms, this is where you're going to be doing all of your different adventures. In the main rulebook, you are given one realm, the Grim Coast, to adventure in. In the Realm Atlas, here, you get another 6 realms to adventure. And they are kind of like adventures. They are kind of like scenarios or, you know, mission packs kind of thing. You can also find a lot of third-party fan-made realms on itch.io, and some of them are amazing, well worth the download. But that's how this game basically plays. You create your character, your Engraved, you select a realm to be your adventure, you go there, and you're basically trying to confront and defeat the Rune Lord of that realm. The master of the realm, who also has a rune. Now, once you defeat them, you can take their rune, engrave it into your body, and gain those powers. And that's kind of the progression of the game, is going from realm to realm, looking for the Rune Lords, trying to defeat them and take their runes. Now, you will start with very simple equipment, but you can find a lot better stuff on the way. When you start, you will create your character with 10 health, which is your hit points. You will have 2 stamina, which will be used in the combat mode. And you will also start with Law of 0. Now, Law is it's a measurement of your realm knowledge, and it helps you to uncover secrets, locate treasures, sneak past creatures, find things. It's basically a way for you to integrate more with the realm and to uncover more of what's there. Your lore gets reset every time you move to a different realm. You'll start the game with 2 weapons. Now, there is a resource file you can download that has the character sheet. It also has a combat grid. We'll talk about more of that later. It also gives you your starting equipment cards. So you basically start with a choice of 5 basic weapons to choose from. You have to select 2. And you put these then on your character card or your character sheet. You then get to select 1 of 3 pieces of gear. These are kind of utilities that are always there. They do have a criteria before they give you the effect of what they do. And then you can start with 1 of 4 runes. So let's say we pick this one. And that is your starting character. So during the game, you will find better equipment and gear and weapons, and those you can just put in your inventory that you can use later. So that is your starting character. Now, let's talk about how to actually play the game. Okay, now we'll go through those cards with the equipment. We'll go through those in a little bit, explaining what's on the cards and everything else. But let's just talk about the basics of the game. In the game, you are going to go through 2 modes of play. The first is, as you can see here, exploration. The second is combat. Now, exploration will take place on the map, and you are going to be traveling from point to point. Technically, physically, nothing actually happens between the points. You're just meant to be traveling. But at these locations on the map, you are going to be able to do a number of different actions to uncover secrets, to learn things, and to fight enemies. So there are 4 basic actions. Learn. With learn, you can increase your lore. Search, you can actually find items, find weapons, find equipment, or find things relevant to the story. Delve is where normally there will be some kind of criteria before you can do a delve, but this is where you find the real secrets and the real good stuff. And then of course you've got fight. This is a Souls-like game, so of course there's going to be combat. A lot of the time you're going to have to fight before you can do any of the other actions, but each realm is going to tell you in their own pages, in their own section. So you are going to basically select a realm with a map. Each realm is going to have some kind of map with a point location system. Now, these lines, these dotted lines in this example, show you the paths you can take. So at the moment, there is no path from 3 to 4. There's no line. However, you may find a secret path if you overcome some kind of obstacle. So that's how the basic exploration works. You go to locations, you have a series or a set of actions that you can do by choice, by nature. Some of it is compulsory, some of it is selective. You can choose to do it or not. There will also be times where you want to come back to those locations. Just like with the games, the Souls-like games, sometimes you'll need to do something else elsewhere before you can open the secret passage, before you can unlock the chest. So you may find items in certain locations that will open previously locked things. Maybe, for example, there is a delve that requires you to have a lore of 3. So once you've earned or learned enough lore from other locations, you can actually come back here and then do that action that requires that lore of 3, for example. So there's a lot of backwards and forwards, exploring, finding things, going back, unlocking new things. Now, every realm will be different. Different maps, different locations, different things to do. I would just like to note that these maps that Spencer Campbell does with the basic game, these are actually created using Perilous Shores. It's the same application that I use to create my maps for 5 Leagues of the Borderlands. Very, very nice little application creating random maps for you. Right, what else is there? Well, that's basically exploration. You're trying to search for stuff, for secrets, for paths, and you're trying to find the Rune Lord. Right, what else is there? You're exploring the land, you're trying to find stuff, but there will also be what is known as a realm clock. Now, this is a very clever little mechanic, which acts as a timer. It acts as a event. What would be the best word? Event activator, encounter activator. Basically, you will have a clock. This is a very simple example. This is the one from the Grim Coast in the basic book, the first realm. And this basically measures time where you are and lets you know whether it's day or night. Because what you'll find in the realms is that certain things will happen at certain times, and this realm clock will activate certain things or do certain things. Every realm's going to be different. Every realm clock's going to be different. Now, if we take a look at this one in a little bit more detail, this is the Grim Coast realm sheet, which basically has all the basic information for the realm. And in this example, the realm clock is very simple. It just shows you day and night, because there will be certain actions, certain things at locations that will only happen at day and only happen at night. So it's important to know. Now, you are going to have to keep track of the clock, and you will advance the clock from segment to segment whenever you move between points. So whenever you move from one location to another location on the map, you will advance the clock one segment in the Grim Coast. Okay. If I then move from 2 to 4, I will then advance it again. Yeah. Also, when you complete any action at a point, so if you do a learning action, a search action, a delve action, etc., or complete a combat, you will also advance the clock. Now, once you've advanced it enough to go back to the start, you will then switch from day to night or from night to day. And that will have an effect on what's available and what's happening at each location. Now, for different realms, for other realms, their realm clock will be totally different. There may not be day and night. It may reflect when certain events happen. So you could, for example, in another realm, advance the clock, and maybe once it does one set, when it comes back to the start again, maybe your enemies have become stronger, so maybe they get extra hit points. Or maybe certain things transform. Yeah? So every realm's going to be different. Make sure that you read the realm clock and see exactly how it happens. Another thing is that each realm, connected with the realm clock somewhat, is death penalties. Whenever you die, you do not die completely, you resurrect at the sigil, which is normally It's normally, because again, every realm's different. It's normally your first location. That represents your sigil. I think in Dark Souls, it was like the campsite, the spawn point. When you die, this is where you resurrect. And a lot of the time, there'll be some kind of penalty that will affect you after you die, and each time after you die. In this case, for the Grim Coast, if you die, well, not if, when you die, because you're going to die, you have to roll. You can get a penalty in movement, a penalty in stamina, or you take more damage in combat. Now, it's not usually permanent, because that would be a real, if you die 3 times, you're not going to be able to move. But this, here it says, this curse lasts until you complete a fight action at any point. So it's temporary. But check your realm sheet. Whatever realm you're doing, this is all going to be different and specific to the realm. Right, combat. Now, the way that Spencer has designed the combat in this game, again, makes you feel of Souls-like games. It has elements that reflects the style of combat and the way that you play Souls-like games in terms of analyzing the enemy, trying to figure out when to strike, trying to figure out their moves, their patterns. Also, in terms of the environment, you get that claustrophobic feel that you get when you sometimes play these Souls-like games in terms of the terrain working against you and things like that. So, combat in this game, very clever and quite interesting. Now, it's not complex. It's a simple system that any gamer can actually pick up very easily, but it's intriguing. So let's take a look at combat. Now, combat is going to take place on a 4x4 grid. Now, in the book, Spencer has included an example here, 4x4 grid. Also in the resources file, there will be a blank grid that you can print out. On this grid, you are going to place terrain and enemies. And of course, yourself. Now, on this grid, put the enemies here. The realm will basically tell you, when you go to a location and it tells you that you have to fight, or there is a fight, it will basically tell you in terms of how to set up the grid. So in this example here, it says here, terrain, permanent, B2. So we put permanent terrain here, B3, D1, and D2. There are 2 types of terrain. One is permanent, where it cannot be moved onto. The second is difficult, where you can move on, but you deal less damage. In terms of setting up your enemies, it says here, skeleton at A1 and C2. So you're up against 2 skeletons. And then here, your engraved, it has your starting location, B4. So that's the grid. Like I say, you get a blank grid in the resources pack. Now, I did my own, because one of the things about this game is that the grid and also the cards, they're a little bit plain, a little bit basic. I wanted to have something a little bit more flashy for my combat tile, so I did my own. Give me 1 second. So I basically made my own combat tiles here using graphics from 2 Minute Tabletop. So I've done 4 different combat grids, desert or sand, sort of dirt or earth, stone or pavement, and grass or wilderness. I've also made some tokens to represent terrain. So for example, this would represent pillars, permanent terrain. I've also done, for example, some difficult terrain, crates and barrels, or possibly even chests. I also have some terrain which are larger than 1 square in case I need to, actually this would probably be better on that tile there. So I've got plants, I've got rocks, I've got beds, I've got tables, that's a big one, that's a 4 square. Even things like market stalls and piles of bodies. I've got a bunch of terrain already for this. I actually made these for another game, Rusty Dagger. But they are absolutely useful here as well. So we have I have these tokens to represent terrain. Now, you can use 3D terrain, it's not a problem. You can use miniatures and terrain, not a problem, but I think I'm going to use tokens for this. I've also created tokens for enemies and for engraved. Again, everything is from 2-Minute Tabletop. I've just mounted everything on artboard or mounting board, backing board, whatever you want to call it. So these are my combat tiles. Now, combat is a very simple game or a very simple system that has a number of rounds. Each round consists of 5 steps. So in this short and sweet overview, basically what we'll do is we'll just have a quick look at the combat. Set up the combat grid as per the instructions in the fight action on the locations. You will need to have the card that represents the enemies. You will also need your weapons cards that you have handy. And possibly, again, you're going to need to have your character sheet handy. But for this example, I'll just put the weapons here. So we're using a long sword and a basic shield. Now, to activate yourself and also the enemies, you're going to be rolling dice and then allocating the dice to your equipment cards or to the enemy card. And what you roll basically says what the enemy's going to do, but also in terms of what you can do. And it's 5 basic steps. The first thing you need to do is roll dice for your enemies. 1 dice for each enemy. So we roll for this guy, we get a 1. We roll for this guy, we get a 1. Okay. I roll a lot of 1s. So once you do that, you have to see what they can do. So in this case, both of my skeletons, I rolled a 1 for each of them, move 1 and harm 1. So they can move 1 square each. And then in the step 5, they'll be doing 1 damage each. Now, movement is orthogonal. In other words, is that the right word? Orthogonal? So they basically means you can move up, down, left or right. You can't move diagonally. So enemies are always going to try to move as close to you as they can to do damage. So on the card, you'll see here the number of health they have, how much damage they take each. The type, sometimes that will be affected by weapons or spells and things. Range, same and adjacent. So these guys can hit you if they're in the same square or if they are adjacent, i.e. in one of the 4s bordering you. Now you can only have 2 models in any 1 square, yeah? So these guys can only move 1 square. So that's step 2. Move enemies and non-harm actions. Any kind of actions that are not harm-based. So they can only move 1 square, so that's all they can do. At the moment, they're not going to be able to do any damage to me at all. Step 3. Now, step 3 is where we roll our dice. We determine our actions, and you roll a dice for each stamina point. Now we have to allocate these dice to my weapons. Now you can only use 1 weapon once per turn, okay? You can't, for example, go here, okay, I'm going to allocate the 3 there and also the 5 there. You can't do that. You can't use a weapon more than once. There are things that will allow you. What you'll find in Rune is that there will be things that overrule the basic rules, like for example in the realms. In the realms, there'll be certain things that basically say, okay, the basic rules say this, but for this realm, we do this instead. But the basic rule is now you've got to allocate these dice. Now I have a 3 and a 5. So I've got to think, I've got to put 1 dice here or 1 dice here. Now, luckily, both of them can use both. If I had rolled a 2, I can't put onto the shield because there's nothing here for a 1 or 2. You've got to have at least a 3 to use the shield. But here I could allocate and get a harm or do damage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, they're going to be doing 1 harm each. Now I don't need to block 2, so I don't need to put that there. I could move 1 space with this, or what I could do is put that here onto the longsword. So if I put it onto the longsword, I'll be doing 1 move and 2 harm. So I can move 1 square, and during the 5th step, when I do damage, I'll be doing 2 damage. I think that's good. And then the 3 I'll be putting here to block 1. Right, so that's what I'm thinking of doing. Right, so step 4. Now we've allocated the dice, now we move. So I'm going to move to here, move 1, because I've got move 1. I can only move 1 square. No further. Now I'm adjacent. So now we move to step 5, deal harm and complete other actions. So all damage is done simultaneously, done at the same time. So this skeleton would do harm 1, but he's not on the same square or adjacent. This guy is, so he would be doing 1 damage to me. Okay? I am doing 2 harm to this skeleton. Because again, my sword allows me to hit adjacent only. So I would be doing 2 damage to that skeleton. However, I used my shield to block 1, which means I can block 1 point of harm. So the result of that combat is that the skeleton here takes 2 damage, so he's down to 2. I take no damage and I am fine. Now, once you deal the harm and you do all the other actions, that's the end of the round, you go again. The way that this game is designed is that, like I say, it reflects the way that combat works in Souls-like. By the enemies going first, it gives you that way of playing where you're trying to analyze the enemy, trying to figure out their patterns and movements and when to strike. And by having the enemies move first, it gives you that ability to kind of get into the video game and plan your strategy and plan your moves properly. However, you can still get screwed by the dice and all your strategy can go wrong. Like when the enemies hit you when they shouldn't be able to hit you, for example, or whatever. But that's basically how combat works. Now, of course, there will be different enemies with different actions. Yeah, let's find another one. So here you've got a necromancer who can actually summon more enemies if you roll 6s for him. You'll also notice that some of the cards have these special abilities at the bottom, even for some of your equipment. Let's find one. For your equipment, you can also find special abilities here, cleave. A very quick overview of how combat works. Now, combat in this game is very deadly, especially when you're up against the more powerful enemies, like the unique enemies or the Rune Lords. And you are going to die. And like I say, the way when you die, basically you go back to your sigil location, reset everything, and you go out again. Now, here's the thing. When you die, the actions at the locations could reset. Now, at the locations, you have 4 types of action: learn, search, delve, and fight. Now, the learn, search, and delve actions, if you have completed them, they stay completed. However, the fights will reset. In other words, the enemies come back when you die. Just like Souls-like games, unless they're unique. If they are a unique enemy, once you kill them, they are gone. But all the other monsters and creatures are going to come back every time you die. Just like Souls-like. And that's pretty much how Rune works. You select a realm, you read and make sure you understand how the realm clock and the death penalties work. Again, every realm is different. The map, where's the map? Let me find the map. The realm map is how you're going to be doing your traveling and exploring. Each location will have certain actions that you can do, certain activities for you to actually achieve and try to complete. But you are trying to find that Rune Lord so that you can defeat him and take his rune, or her rune, whatever. Just a few little notes. You can only change your weapons and gear during the exploration mode. So while you're traveling and moving from location to location, point to point, you can change your weapons and gear, not during combat. Your rune, you can only change your rune when you move to a new realm. Once you come to a realm and start the game, you're stuck with the realm that you have selected, okay? At any time, you can have 2 weapons equipped, 1 gear equipped, and up to 3 runes equipped, okay? At any time. But like I say, changing them, switching them, swapping them, there are some rules. But you can have up to 3 runes equipped at any time, which is going to make you very powerful. Now, let's have a bit of an overview, so about my final thoughts. I really like this game. I think it is really thematic in terms of bringing the Souls-like genre to the tabletop. Not as a board game or as a pure role-playing game like D&D or RuneQuest, or actually RuneQuest. But it's very much a simple solo tabletop game that brings elements of all these things together. So the combat is reminiscent of a board game. The exploration is reminiscent of a RPG, and it brings it all together into a very neat little package. Everything you need is in the rulebook in terms of how to play, but the realms are going to change all of that. In the Realm Atlas, you have another 6 realms. So when you purchase the PDF, you've got 7 realms to play through. And like I say, you may not discover everything the first time you play a realm. There will be things that you can't unlock because your lore isn't high enough. There will be certain things that you haven't found yet because maybe you can't defeat the creatures that are there. Well, you could always go to another realm, pick up and find some nice weapons and runes, come back, try it again. There's rules for that. Yeah? It's not, you don't have to. The realms are not blocked to you once you've completed them or once you've been there. It may take more than one visit to actually overcome the Rune Lords. So you've got a lot of diversity and replayability here. In terms of the realms, you do have also a lot of third-party realms on itch.io that you can download. And I really do like this game. And I do think it's going to appeal to a lot of people. You just got to get people to try it. Yeah, try the game, try these games. You'll be surprised how many of them you're going to enjoy. Stop being so tunnel vision on Wizards of the Coast or Games Workshop. Yeah, you've got to try some of these other indie games and smaller produced games. They really are worth checking out. Saying that, I do have a couple of issues. I think, I don't know, looking at some of gilarpgs' other products, some of the game elements are a bit plain in terms of being very basic in design, like, for example, like the cards. I mean, they're functional, they're perfectly good enough, but they are very, I don't know, very simple in design. I mean, if you look at some of gilarpgs' other products, the art is amazing. However, saying that, the art inside, the artwork inside the book is really, really good. I really think that this is a good choice in terms of artwork for the book. Yeah, all these diagrams, it's really, really nice, and it really fits. But in terms of the cards, I don't know, I'm a little bit disappointed. They're a bit basic. Also, I don't know whether I want to show you these or not, but some of the like unique enemies and bosses, they have these larger cards, which I don't know. I would like them all to be the same size so that I could create like a tuck box, like a card box, and put them all in. But some of the cards are big, double size. I don't know. Anyway, minor things. The game itself, highly recommended, and I'm also going to be doing an instructional playthrough of the Grim Coast, which is the realm in the basic rulebook. I'm not going to touch these unless you guys want me to. So there will be spoilers in the playthrough, okay? But yes, highly recommended. I think this game is well worth purchasing and playing. I think it's a brilliant game. Big thumbs up to Spencer Campbell at gilarpgs. I think it's a brilliant product. Thank you for watching. Please take a moment to like and subscribe. Ring the bell for notifications of video uploads. And again, don't forget to make some comments. Let me know what you think after you play this game. Until next video, guys, take care, stay safe, cheers.